welcome back to the Feel Your Feelings podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Matanjuola, and welcome to the Host to Host series yet again. I have another new guest with me today. And you know what? I'm just going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Let them know who you are.
Thank you so much, Victoria. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Lloyd. I'm a podcast manager, and I run a company called Podman, helping creators manage their podcasts. I've been a creator for about the last 3 years and a creator on TikTok for the last year, and I'm super stoked to be here chatting with you.
Thank you so much. How are you feeling today? I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling really good. I was a little nervous about this all day, but I'm glad it's finally here.
Same. I'm the one who's nervous. I'm like feeling like I'm so unprepared. Like I'm so unprepared. This is Lloyd George. Like I'm so
Oh,
unprepared.
no, you're too kind. I think every podcaster feels that way. It's just like you just want it to go so perfect.
Totally. And, being that you are another podcaster as well, it just kind of makes me want to like step my game up as well. So where are you based right now?
I am based in Washington, D.C., so certainly the East Coast, and I'm relatively new here. I just moved here from Atlanta, but so far it's been amazing.
Okay, I'm from the South.
Yeah.
I lived on the East Coast for a little bit in
So you
DC.
can appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. So kind of slightly jealous, but yeah, that's really great. So today's topic that I was really kind of brewing on is obviously about content creation, but how to build community as opposed to just going viral. So community versus virality. So when did you start taking content creation seriously?
Yeah, that's such a great question. My journey creating content on TikTok started in December 2021, but it wasn't until like May 2022 that I really started to embrace what I was doing and kind of find my space online. Since then, it's just been amazing. And I think it's just been a journey of discovery, just sort of learning the type of creator I want to be. And so I've certainly been pondering a lot about sort of like, do I want to be a viral with a lot of followers, which means I have to chase virality, or do I just want to build sort of like meaningful impact, and what might that look like for me?
I love that. I love that. And that's something that I'm seeking right now as a new and independent content creator. What excites you most about being a podcaster? And what frustrates you the most about being a podcaster?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to be excited about, just because I think the podcasting space is just growing so fast. And every time I see people, I'm constantly just saying, like, do you have a podcast? Like, you need to start one. I view it kind of like the new journal or the new newsletter, the new resume, like a business card. Exactly. That's the perfect way to think about it. And so I think because of that, there's what excites me most is just like the ability to connect with people and the ability to get with people. I'm convinced that, in the same ways that in the past we would say, like, if you want to meet a lot of people, we'd say, like, are you going to a lot of networking events? Are you on LinkedIn? I think in 5 years, we'll be saying, like, do you have a podcast? Just so that I can go one place, I could listen to everything you've put out, and I can instantly get an idea of how much or how little information you actually know about a specific topic. And so it's just such a great portfolio for people. And so that excites me the most, just the number of people you can meet and how you can use it like a networking tool. What I'm least excited about in the world of podcasting is I think in 5 years, there'll be a lot more spam than there is now. For instance, if someone figures out how to create like AI podcasts where you don't really have to like start or create one, and that's happening like thousands per month, it could get kind of like social media is right now.
I feel that there's a few things that frustrate me about podcasting as well, being that the space seems very oversaturated. And sometimes I feel like I don't know which way to go, or too many voices coming all at once.
Yeah.
So it can feel pretty overwhelming at times, especially for a beginner just starting out. Like where does my voice fit in?
That's interesting that you say that. Do you feel like it's not necessarily that you feel like there's too many podcasts to consume. You only feel like there's too many podcasts in comparison to to you, like in your sort of like niche, so to speak.
Exactly. I think it's specifically the podcasters who are creating in the space that I'm in, and figuring out how my voice can cut through in the same space.
Yeah.
Because there's different genres. I consider Feel Your Feelings health and wellness because it deals with like mental health. But yeah, I think just and that there's sort of like, it feels like there's a competition there, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. And I won't harp on this too long, but I just
It's
want to make
okay.
I want to make my
Let's
feelings
do it.
known
Let's do
that I
it.
vastly disagree with that.
Okay. We definitely need to have a separate pod just to
Yeah,
like dig into it, and I'm down if you're down. So,
yeah,
or maybe IG Live, you know, we'll make it
right.
happen. What's it like working with your wife Ashley on the Creator Hub?
Yeah, I love working with my wife. I feel like we're such a great team and I think we complement each other really well. There's just so many times where I realize that like there's 0% chance that our business could have grown as fast as it has if I wasn't
Hmm.
working with her. And so I just think like there's a peace of mind I get, but there's also this like competitive spirit that I feel like, oh my gosh, like with our team, like we could literally take on anyone. We're that like good together. And so I love that. And I think we both know each other really well. And more than anything, I don't even think we view this as sort of like, oh my gosh, we could make a lot of money from this.
Yeah.
We view it just as sort of like something to do together. And it's cool. It's the same way other couples, you know, might do art together or might find their own hobbies together. We view our business sort of like that. And so it's just been a blast working together. We've always like spoken about this. This year we'll celebrate our 8-year wedding anniversary, and we've always
Oh,
spoke about that.
congratulations.
Thank you. Just like working together and the fact that it, you know, is finally happening feels really good.
I like that. Like that's goals for me. Like that push and pull creatively. I like that. Um, okay, so I want to know more about your creative process. Um, what what were you inspired by? What inspired you to create the Creator Hub? And most importantly, what do you lean on for support?
That's such a great question. And I'm so glad you asked that because I think my journey with Creator Hub and my journey as a creator has certainly evolved and continues to evolve.
Yes.
And I think trying to describe that to people can be a bit difficult. But even when I started podcasting, I started my very first podcast in 2018.
Okay.
I knew that like, okay, this is cool. I'm kind of getting the hang of it. Perfect. And then in 2021, when I started the Creator Hub podcast, I didn't know that that's what it was going to turn into. And so I sort of just started and called it like, I think it was Untitled or something like that. And that's sort of how I viewed creating content, that like, you don't need to know exactly where you're going. You just need
Mm,
to start and your steps will become a little more clear the more you do it. And so with that, creating Creator Hub has been beautiful just because each month I just add these new components. I either do something new or I take something away. And that has sort of been like how I view creating content. And so if you follow my content closely, you can kind of tell that I try a lot of different things and I, you know, stop doing a lot of different things.
yeah.
An example of this is I created a Patreon recently, tried it for a few months and then
Yeah.
decided it just wasn't for me and stopped it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think Creator Hub has given me just a good playground to explore and test my creativity.
Very nice. I actually listened to one of your recent episodes about dealing with failure as a creator, which leads me into my next question. Did you ever have moments when you wanted to give up on your dream as for being an entrepreneur? And if so, how did you stay motivated?
That's such a great question. At least every other week. Like I think the creator journey is filled with these highs and lows. And sometimes it feels like you're on top of the world. And there's just weeks like this week is just like a great week. Like lots of brands are reaching out to me. My content feels really good. People are resonating with my content. I just like it's like all things are firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
But there's also other weeks where it just feels like, gosh, I know this was a really good video or this was a really good podcast episode and it did not get nearly the amount of
Yeah.
traction that I thought it should have gotten. There's all these things happen that
Yeah.
seem like they're beyond your control. And so it
Hmm.
constantly feels like when you're in those lows that it feels like, gosh, like, why am I doing this? And you kind of have to pump yourself up and keep in mind a community that's going to continue to like egg you on and keep going. But at least every other week, I think about quitting.
Mm, that's a deep one. And I would also love to explore that with you on just another, I feel like generational conversation about failure as a whole. But we're not going to
Yeah,
get too
there's a
deep into
lot.
it.
That's a great point because I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't talk about failure, and I certainly agree
Yeah.
that that
I
could be a
appreciate
whole.
that you did, especially in that recent episode. Please check it out if you're listening to it. He dropped it the last day of February, February 28th. It's March 1st right now, but please check it out. I enjoyed listening to it. Um, Tools for success. What resources can you share with us or with me for aspiring podcast hosts or entrepreneurs, specifically those that would like to make money doing what we're doing?
I love that you asked this question because
I mean, this
I'm
is a
like a
personal question, kind of, but
yeah.
you know what I mean.
I'm a resource junkie. I just like I use so many, like if you look at like my budget, like I was looking at my spreadsheet to see how many different like tools I pay for a month, and it was almost like 40. It's just like a lot
40
of
like
40
subscriptions. Oh my gosh. I haven't
subscriptions.
even
Yeah.
like written mine down. I just see like the charge, like Canva charge.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
like, take my money.
exactly, it adds up. Canva, all these things, they add
Uh-huh.
up. But yeah, can't live without Canva.
Nah, not at all. Not at
So I
all.
feel like I think the first step for any creator that wants to make money is just trying like just figuring out like, okay, like what am I willing to do to make money? So for instance, some people may discover that like, hey, I probably could make $50 like reading these like podcast host
Mhm.
ads every week, but do I really want to do that? Probably not.
Right.
Or maybe probably so. Great. Whatever that is for you, figure out your parameter. So for instance, I'll just dot a few ideas just so that people know like what some options may be. Podcast sponsorships, so like reading host read ads in your episode. You could also do UGC content, which is basically creators creating TikTok videos, reels for different
Question, what does
brands.
UGC stand for? Because I see that pop up a lot and I'm not, some people may wonder like, what is UGC?
Yeah, great question. So it stands for user generated content.
User
And
generated
that
content.
basically is, I like to call it like authentic content. And basically, if just like right now, you and I are on this call, and I'm going to tell you that like this is for sure my favorite microphone ever. And it really is like my favorite microphone out of all my microphones. Excuse me.
Sound quality is top tier, top tier.
I appreciate that. And so basically, theoretically speaking, I could now reach out to this brand and say, like, yo, I was on this like podcast episode and I just kept raving about how amazing this microphone is. It's fantastic. For $50, I'll actually let you like post this on your page, which brands love, because nobody wants to be on a page that just feels like it has like pre-created content. No one wants to be on a page that feels like it has corporate content.
Yes.
Having some of those organic videos. And if you look at like a lot of like larger brands, like Shure, the company that does this microphone, is a great example. They do have a lot of content on their page just from like users randomly using it in like real life. And so all of that content that you see, that is like the brand paying them to use that content. And so in my opinion, becoming a UGC creator is the easiest possible way to start getting paid money for creating content, because it's not dependent on how many followers you have,
Hmm.
because that content that you're creating is not going to live on your page. It's going to live on the page of the brand. So theoretically speaking, to anyone listening, there is no reason right now you could not just start reaching out to brands and saying like, hey, my name is Lloyd. I'm an amazing content creator. I talk about podcasting. I would love to create a video for you that will live on your page. And when I first started, that's what I did. I just told people like, yo, you're new on TikTok. You don't really have any content. I'll create 6 videos for you. $400 a video. Actually, at that time, it was like 200. It was $200 per video with a minimum of 6 videos. That way, when brands get on TikTok, they have content they can start posting. And that's like just like an easy way to start. That's literally not even dependent on your following. So it's like, I
Yeah.
don't think there's any reason why anyone can't do that. There's also, just to your point about resources, there's a website called Ties. It's actually brandties.com. They basically work with brands and creators and they try and connect them. So if there's like UGC opportunities, they post them in their group. So be affiliated with groups like that so that you can find out when there are opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. And one thing I really like about your content, Lloyd, is that you're not stingy. Like you actually are open to letting people know, other creators, like how they can do what you're doing. And like it's like you're holding that door open for other creatives. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that because it's not always easy when you're first starting out to like have other people tell you what to do. I've kind of come across both. I've asked some people like, "Hey, what is your strategy for doing that?" And they literally either won't answer the question. It'll be like, who are you? Why are you asking me this?" Or on the other hand, it'll be like an abundance of information that's like, wait, this is too good. This is too. So I just wanted to say in short that thank you for holding that door open and for being transparent about your process and how you're doing what you're doing. not too many creatives are doing that.
I really appreciate that. And I think only because like I feel like this conversation is centered around community.
Yes,
I want to say I
yes.
really appreciate that because I think like as I think about sort of like the type of creator I want to be,
Yeah.
I'd much rather prefer to have like 50 people that feel like, oh my gosh, like Lloyd is amazing. He like shares great resources. I just love consuming his content than I would having like a million people that feel like, yeah, I follow this guy. Like every once in a while, he puts out like great content,
Right.
sure. And so back to that idea of community, I think that's so important in discovering like the type of creator you want to be. And I spent a lot of time this year just sort of thinking through like, what does that look like for me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have so many more questions about community. That's Cypher. I'm like, how far do I want to get? Because there's like so many more questions I want to ask you. But I'm gonna stay on track. So you mentioned how you stayed motivated and your tools for success that you use. What are some practices that you have in place? Actually, no, I do want to ask you more of the community question, which just left me for a minute. Oh, so like the bigger that you get as a creative, say you hit like 10 million followers down the line, right? And you just blow up, you become like this huge creator in the space. Like, do you feel like that sense of community, like you just said, even if it's just 50 people that, you're reaching, do you think you would still have that sort of intimate connection or that one-on-one reach the bigger that you get as a creator? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's a great question. And I really don't know the answer to that question, but I certainly think about it a lot. I look at creators that are very large but do a great job of community just to see like how they handle that.
Mhm.
One of my favorite like new creators that I discovered is well, not new, but new to me, is Keith Lee, right? And I feel like he's grown very, very fast and still has such a great sense of like community. And so I'd be very curious to know just sort of like how many of his followers he like remembers or knows or like has unique things that he like remembers about them when you're like that big. I think
I
that's one
was
of the
with you when you
things.
were at 15.
Right. And so I think that's one of the things I'm like really enjoying. And I think part of like like this journey of being a creator is just figuring out like how can I be present at all times to
Yes.
enjoy where I'm at so that I'm not just constantly thinking about like where I want to
What's
go so
next?
much
What's
so that I
next? What's
miss
next?
what's now. And so
Yes,
with
yes.
that, like I say, like the beauty of like where I'm at, even though I certainly do want to grow, is just that like I like the people that are like my followers are almost just like my friends. Like some of them have my number. It's like I
Okay.
remember things about them, and it's like I love that so much. Like that is like the highlight of. I almost just feel like when I've been telling my wife like I want to do an in person event with my podcast. I almost just want to do it just to feel like I have all my friends in one room, and
Mhm.
so I'm really enjoying where I'm at and fostering that sense of community.
I love that. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. What are some practices that you have in place when you get overwhelmed as a creator? And I ask you that question because my podcast is partly, like I said, health and wellness based and mental health based. And I think it's important for creators to talk about how we're also feeling while we are creating content for others to maybe help them, in my case, feel better or feel not depressed. But we also have to like not forget about ourselves as well. So I think I'll answer the question first a little bit if I can. I I'm not the I'll admit I'm not the most consistent creator. There's areas and gray areas where I'm like, oh, I could do better in that. I need to push myself. It's like, how far do I go? And when I feel
Hmm.
burnt out, personally, I like listening to music or just tuning out. And it's hard because I'm in the space and I want to like, you have to be in the game to play the game, right? So it's a balancing game. It really is a balancing game for me. But what I like to do sometimes is just shut everything down, like all my tabs, close my laptop physically, and listen to music on Spotify, chill, maybe watch some TV. Gotta eat, girls gotta eat. And tune the world out. But I try to do that in small doses. But yeah, long story short, what are some ways that maybe you give yourself the same amount of attention as your work?
Yeah, that's Very, very well said. And I think that number one, I'm probably like the worst possible person to ask about this because I don't think I've quite figured that out. And I know that that's a problem that I do need to figure out. Just sort of like this idea that sometimes when you're creating content that you feel like helps other people, it's easy for us to view that as an excuse to go like hard and overboard because it's like I'm helping people. And it's very easy to forget about our own needs and our own self-care and what that looks like for us. And I'm certainly like guilty of that. Like I work an insane amount of hours. And I feel like that's probably like the reason I've probably been able to grow. I'd say like I'm quadrupling my growth every single month. And I
Mhm.
like the fact that like I'm growing really fast. It's like the most amazing thing ever. But I do think it's probably because I don't have like healthy balance and healthy boundaries. And I just kind of
Mhm.
like, and so that is something I'm trying to be more cognizant of. I'm not quite sure what that will look like just yet. I know in this specific season, one of the things I've been doing just whenever I start to feel stressed is just sort of like step away from my computer and I'll go read for like 6 minutes.
Okay.
And that 6 minutes is like the most like that is like the only time in the day that and when I'm in the shower that my brain actually like stops and it's
I,
not like thinking about work.
I love to read, and I was just about to ask like maybe like a spitfire question and like three of your top reads. Like
Yeah. The
you're a book
irony of
nerd.
that is I'm not a big reader, so I only have like two.
Okay, okay,
But
two's
like the
fine.
top two
Two's
have
fine.
been a book called Atomic Habits, and then I just started reading
Okay.
this other book called A Return to Love. Have you read that?
No, who's it by?
Oh, it's by Madeline something.
Mm-mm.
I'll find it and share it
Mm-mm.
with you. It's
Okay,
so
please do.
it has the popular quote from the book is our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate, but greater beyond
That
our
we're
biggest
powerful
measure.
beyond measure. That's
Yes, yes,
what's
yes.
her name? She's running for president.
Is she?
She is. I
Whoa.
know exactly who you are talking about, and I
Yeah.
love that quote. And
Yes.
you know, wow, I'm getting. But there's a movie, the movie Coach Carter. I always thought it
Mhm.
was from Coach Carter, but the student in the movie that quoted it is from this lady.
Yeah.
But this lady also got the quote from Nelson Mandela, so it goes like in different way. I don't
It
know who
does.
started this
It
quote.
does.
Whoever did, I love this quote. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Yeah, I've
That's
heard the
crazy
same
you
thing.
brought that
People
up.
saying, "Is it
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela? Is it?" Yeah, yeah, certainly. But I will say, I was just telling my wife that's like the only book I've read in a long time where I felt like there is no wasted word. Like it's so concise, so depth. Like you probably have to read it like two or three times just to fully
Marianne
grasp it.
Williamson.
Marianne
Marianne
Williamson,
Williams. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Awesome. 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 Wow. I'm a book nerd as well. Quickly before I wrap it up, there's a book that I got on Amazon. Shameless plug. I'm still reading this book, but it's by Tyler Perry called Higher is Waiting. Highly recommend it as well.
I need
Um,
to check that out.
it's I
I
love
mean,
it.
it is Tyler Perry. Like I would not expect it to be anything less than
It's like
amazing.
healing. It's like a soul hug, if that makes sense, because I'm
Yeah.
also a reader and I like to read when things get busy in my life or my mind is kind of moving at a fast pace. I'm just like, cool
Yeah.
down and like just talking about faith. Faith is something that's
Yeah.
really big in there, and it's something that I'm like,
Wow.
on right now. Like having, excuse me, like have faith, have faith, have faith.
That's amazing. I wish more creators spoke about that, just sort of like this intersection of faith and creating content
Mm,
because you need
mm,
it. Like you
mm-hmm.
definitely need it.
So true, so true. I did a series recently, another shameless plug, called the Misunderstood series, and I kid you not, it was just literally by the grace of God that I created that series because I didn't know what to do with my content. I was like,
Mm,
I don't know what to do, but I also don't want to copy anyone else because that's just not who I am. I'm not like a copy or like copy paste person, but what can I do? And literally just like listening to cues, listening to God, listening to the universe, the spirit, and just listening to uh, that spiritual part of myself. I could really get deep into this, but yeah, that's I
that
like that the intersection of faith and creativity. That's
yeah, I'm
awesome.
so glad you said that because I know that's something a lot of people struggle with this idea of like, do I niche? Am I the niche? Who am I? What do I
Mhm.
talk about?
Exactly.
And I totally resonate with that.
Totally. Well, Lloyd, I want to say thank you for coming on the Feel Your Feelings podcast. And before I let you go, where can my listeners find you and your work?
Thank you so much for having me. I am Lloyd, not George, on all platforms. That's at Lloyd, not George. You can also find me at lloydnotgeorge.com. I would love to connect with you if you're listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, please check out the Creator Hub. Um, it's taking off, so you better hop on that plane while it's going up. So keep doing
I
what you're
really
doing.
appreciate that.
You and your wife. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.